Welcome to the CUFI Weekly. I'm Kasim Hafeez. Okay, we are just wrapping up our CUFI Leadership Conference. You can hear the noise in the background. You can hear people tearing stuff down. It has been an incredible couple of days. Over 700 CUFI leaders, CUFI students. So join us, as we promised last week, for a recap of the last 48 hours. Joined by Randy Neal. Randy, how's it going?
Good. Pleasure to be here, Kasim.
Oh, it's an honor to have you here. It's been a very full day of great programming at our Leadership Summit. Yeah. So Randy, tell us about the Congressional Liaison program that you oversee, run, whichever one of those terms is appropriate, both maybe?
Well, you know, it's kind of a two-prong answer to that. You know, one, it's very critical. It's important for us to be engaged at the grassroots level, state level, congressional district level, and it allows our members to really be on the field and really help get things across the goal line. But what a lot of folks don't recognize or realize just on the surface is that it's really returning to Pastor Hagee's original vision. When he founded this organization, every time that somebody would fill out the pledge card at a live event or online, or when he'd do an appeal on a TV program, he was, in his mind, he was thinking they were signing up to be part of a rapid response action alert team. So when they get an action alert, we are absolutely positive that they're going to stop what they're doing and they're going to go ahead and follow through. They're going to make that call to their elected official. They're going to send those emails, sometimes go to the town hall meeting. And not only will they follow through, but then they get back to us and they let us know how it went, what was the response, what is that official's position, and we convey that back. We're kind of the bridge between our C3 CUFI, Christians United for Israel, and our DC office, our C4, the CUFI Action Fund. And so we give our folks in DC, the 24/7 lobbying office, the intelligence they need to know, where our officials stand based on the feedback that they get from the delegates.
Well, no, for sure. I mean, that is making tangible change. If anyone wanted to find out more about the Congressional Liaison Program, where would they go?
They would go to CUFI.org/CL. It's that simple, just CUFI.org/CL to get an overview of what we ask, what you can expect to be asked to do, and just see if you're already a member of CUFI, this just allows you to dial it up a notch.
And so what I want to do in the next few minutes that we have together is share a story from Jerusalem, from the Bible, some 2,700 years ago. And what's special about this story is that I believe
we're joined by Zev Orenstein from the City of David. Good to see you, Zev.
Good to see you again.
Just heard you on stage. You were incredible as always. And we're looking forward to having groups back in Israel, in the City of David. So what's new at the City of David?
The last year and a half, we have not had a lot of visitors in country, but it has given us an incredible opportunity to keep digging, to keep excavating, to keep unearthing Jerusalem's biblical heritage, which means so much to so many Jews, Christians, and billions around the world. We've continued the excavations of the Pilgrimage Road, the road where 2,000 years ago, all those going up to the temple in Jerusalem, coming from the Pula Siloam, going up the Pilgrimage Road through the City of David, dating back to the time of Jesus. This is one of the things that we have continued excavations of, along with finding other discoveries dating back to First Temple period Jerusalem, and all sorts of other things that bring the Bible to life.
Well, I mean, that's amazing. And like I said earlier, we can't wait to be back in Israel to experience that. So you spoke, like I said, you were on the main stage an hour ago. If a person hasn't been to the City of David before, why should they be excited about visiting? I know, but from you, Zev.
For so many people, the Bible, it's a book of faith, a book of inspiration, a book of meaning. And when you think of the Bible, when you think of the kings who ruled in the pages of the Bible and the prophets who preached, they were hanging out in Jerusalem, which is the City of David, the place where Jerusalem began. It gives you an opportunity when you're in the place where the Bible happened to see the words of the Bible come to life in a way that does not happen anywhere else, and to see your faith affirmed before your eyes, where you could see with your own eyes, touch with your hands, walk with your feet on the very stones and antiquities that our ancestors who walked through the pages of the Bible that where they were. It shows that our connection to Jerusalem, our shared heritage in Jerusalem, is not simply a matter of faith, but a matter of fact. And that's something you can't experience in Dallas or New York or Los Angeles. It's just different when you're in Jerusalem, when you're in the city of David. It literally brings the Bible to life.
Wow, that is super powerful and amazing. Zev, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And next year in Jerusalem, or this year in Jerusalem.
Right? Pleasure's mine.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm joined by Raj from the Israel Collective. What's up, Raj?
You know, I'm enjoying Summit. I'm not gonna lie.
It's good to be back in person. Israel Collective, what's it about?
We saw about 7 years ago when we started this that millennials, and that's a loaded term, but let's just say young people,
Yeah.
post-college but young folks,
Okay.
young Christians were starting to have a negative perception of Israel. Evangelical Christians, not just anyone. And obviously, evangelical Christians have been, traditionally I'm like, what is happening? What is going on? It became cool to post an Israel article or whatever, an anti-Israel article, and that's scary, terrifying. And so, what we thought was we need to create a separate initiative inside CUFI that we eventually called the Israel Collective, where how do we make the CUFI message palatable, relatable, digestible to hipsters, to influencers, to movie stars, to actors, to athletes, to...
But how do you do that? How do you get a generation? And look, there are numerous articles about evangelical support for Israel dropping, all right? You Google it, it's all over. How do you remedy that? Because it's almost a cultural shift that's happening. How do you...
You have to speak millennial. To change the mind of a young person who has so many defenses, so many walls, we target their heart first. Okay. So we reach them on personal stories, on, okay, you've heard these things, but meet my friend who is literally an embodiment of the exact opposite of what you've been sold. It's really easy to sell someone a bag of goods on an article. What I can do is reach this generation because I've been in all these industries. I've worked in Hollywood, I've worked in sports, I've worked in all these kind of places, and so God's able to use that language of I am you, I get you, to speak his truth, and that is what changes people's hearts.
Wow. Okay, so because we have limited time, people want to learn more about the IC and the amazing things you're doing. Where do they go? So
IsraelCollective.org is our website, but if they want to get right to the point, just search Israel Collective on YouTube. It's a channel. We spend an inordinate amount of time making content that is similar to, obviously we can't take every millennial, every young person to Israel, so we try to make content that has that same experiential truth.
Raj, thanks for hanging out with us. Good to see you. And Dan, thank you also for all your assistance.
So we will honor him there as well. And I want to thank you so much for joining us in this journey with Urban Rock. Thank you.
All right, I'm joined by Jessica from CUFI on Campus. CUFI on Campus's director. How's it going, Jessica?
Not too bad.
All right, so leadership was great. You were great on stage, as always. So tell us a little bit about the campus program and the campus students that we had here for our conference.
Absolutely. So I'll start with the students. We had 40 Bonhoeffer Fellows who are going to Israel in about a week.
Nice.
Bonhoeffer Fellows are students that we help develop their character, educate them about Israel, the biblical foundation for supporting Israel, and it's based on the life of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who stood against Hitler and the Nazi regime. And these are our top students, and we had hard-hitting education. You spoke to the students. It was a great session, and we're excited to go to Israel with these folks. So the CUFI on Campus program itself consists of campaigns, education, Israel trips, weekly meetings. We are rich in education and encouragement. We back them up spiritually. We pray with our students. One of my favorite things about CUFI on Campus are the relationships.
So what are the challenges students face today on campus? I know with COVID last year, campus activism looked very different, but what are some of the challenges they have faced? Are they going to be facing going forward?
There's a lot of unique challenges right now with the climate in America. There's a lot of pressure on these students to say exactly the right thing, or they will be attacked, especially on social media. With the pressure on this upcoming generation of influencers, Gen Z, every move they make is analyzed and critiqued on social media. They've been raised addicted to likes.
Yeah.
So these are unique pressures that are intensifying right now in America. And on top of that, you have an issue like Israel, which is already a hot button issue, which we already have students attacked for. And people want to tell them who they are as a supporter of Israel. One of the main lies people like to say about a pro-Israel Christian Zionist is that they are racist and anti-Palestinian, when the absolute opposite is true.
Yeah.
How often do we see that?
But why is activism for Israel so important on campus? What makes it such a need, I guess?
I would say because the hate for Israel is growing every single year. Well, we gather these students from all over the nation and we sit down and we train them. There are conferences exactly like this, with gathering students and sitting down and training them, but with a completely different objective, and that is to demonize Israel and the Jewish people. So while we are working to make a difference for good, there's the other side also working, mobilizing, training students on these campuses to demonize Israel. So the work we have to do is great. And if you want to help and you're not on campus, and this is your passion and you know what is at stake, please help support us. We bring hundreds of students to Israel, and these scholarships come from the mothers and the fathers and the grandparents who know what is at stake. So if you can give to our program, you're sowing into good ground. We're working hard to make sure that the future of the U.S.-Israel relationship remains strong, and that the future Christian leadership in this country understands our role, our biblical mandate to support Israel and the Jewish people.
All right, I'm joined by Director of Policy and Communications, Ari Morgenstern. How's it going, Ari?
Nice to be here. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So you were on stage a few hours ago discussing the legislative agenda for this conference. Could you tell us a bit about that and what is going on with that from the CUFI side of things?
So really there's two ways to view this. So first, we have our federal legislative agenda, where we're seeking to advance three pieces of legislation. First, we want to advance foreign aid to Israel. And we believe that the best investment the United States makes in foreign aid is in its investment in Israel. And the reason we call it an investment more than aid is because 75% of the dollars that are given to Israel in order to help protect itself are spent back here in the United States. In fact, we're here in Texas, not far from where major components of the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter are built. Yeah. In addition, every time Israel takes a technology or takes a weapon system that it purchases from the United States, it increases the technological capability of that weapon system. So it really is an investment. So we're here to support foreign aid to Israel and to continue that program. The second piece of legislation that we're supporting deals with cybersecurity. Yeah. This bill will enable the best minds in Israel, the best minds in the U.S., to receive grant money, to come together, to ensure that they can effectively combat the cyber terrorism and the cybersecurity issues that we've seen so often plague our country and really the world. Along with our allies in the pro-Israel community, we've now seen 33 bills pass legislation that makes it impossible for someone who's boycotting the state of Israel to either receive a state contract or receive investment from certain state retirement accounts. Okay. Now, the other bill that we're going to be focusing on, and we really just started this in 2021, but I believe it's going to be the main focus of our state-level efforts, is Holocaust education. See, recently, and it's extremely difficult and extremely troubling, recently there was a study that came out that showed just the sheer appalling level of ignorance amongst Gen Z and millennials, those ages 18 to 38, about the Holocaust. Let me just give you one statistic. More than 1 in 10 people of that age group blame the Jewish people for the Holocaust. Wow. It's an astounding statistic. Yeah. So how do you deal with this problem? The consequence, we know what it is. It's anti-Semitism, whether it's spray painting swastikas on Jewish facilities or it's beating up and, in the worst cases, killing Jews in the street. Right. How do you deal with that? How do you stop that before it continues to spread? Education is the answer. And we believe that every state in the union should have a mandate from its Department of Education, and failing that, from the legislature, to mandate Holocaust education as part of the social studies curriculum. How can we allow ourselves to say we are educating the next generation when they aren't even aware of the basic realities, the basic horrors of the genocide by which all others are measured? So that's what we're focusing on legislatively at this year's summit.
So let me ask you a question about the Holocaust education. I know you've been instrumental in working on that. To me, it makes sense. Of course, we should be teaching about the Holocaust. Of course, it should be an integral part of this. What have been some of the challenges in passing these bills?
So fundamentally, every state is a little bit different. Okay. So there's no one size fits all. And when we first set out to do this, what we did is we went out and we talked to teachers. We talked to principals. We talked to Holocaust educators. And we asked them the same question. And the first issue is that all teachers across the country have to receive a certain number of recertification credits or continuing education units throughout the course of their career. Yeah. And learning about the Holocaust and how to teach the Holocaust from entities like Yad Vashem or the Shoah Center at USC, you can go do that on your own time and on your own dime, but you don't receive any recertification credits for it. There is no anti-Holocaust education lobby, but the level of ignorance is so significant that you do have a problem that you have to address. And we think that by working with teachers and by working with educators that are committed to this, we're going to address that problem.
That's excellent. Ari, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Sam.
Really great speaking to you. So we hope you enjoyed that. Make sure that you mark your calendars for 2022. We will be back in Washington, D.C. for the CUFI Summit. Be sure to register for that. Join us then. For Zion's sake, do not remain silent. We'll see you next week. Thanks for checking out today's episode of CUFI Weekly. If you enjoyed this episode and want to stay up to date with the latest news from the Middle East along with topics involving US-Israel relations, please be sure to like and subscribe. And remember to click that notification button so that you are notified every time a new show is uploaded.